All right. Welcome back to my series where I react to the book that I wrote when I was 19. This one is business. Just to give you some context, I actually didn't finish high school. I got my GED and then I went straight into college because there was no way for me to get accepted into a university otherwise. And because everyone in my family is in business, I had my first real job at somewhere around 11 or 12 years old. I worked as an accounting assistant for a company that set up shell companies and penny share companies between the US and Canada. So I had not only family experience, but personal experience in business and what real business is, because it's not just what you study in school. Especially if you haven't worked in business or you haven't seen what happens behind the curtain, behind closed doors, what happens in the meetings, you really don't know how a business is ran unless you're in it for years, because there's a lot of shady stuff. I think if you watch my travel videos, you'll get a better idea of not just my background when I was younger, but also as I grew up. So I did take advantage of it. And I did consider that. My first major was business management, administration, and finance. And I could have continued in university, but I changed my specialty, my field, and went into education instead. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of why maybe my mindset was like this at such a young age in comparison to maybe other people my age. All right, let's start.
Business is not numbers. It's human nature with a price tag. It's about value, real or fake, and what people are willing to trade their life for. Everyone's selling something, everyone's buying something, and every deal has a devil in the details.
Sometimes I wish I would remind myself of this, especially when you do business with people that you assume you can trust, people you feel you shouldn't have that type of relationship, or there shouldn't be that type of negative impact on you. But unfortunately, it's just how it is, right? I don't remember how old I was, but I needed work and I needed capital. I needed some cash quick. So I had a friend of mine who worked for a car dealership, and one of the part-time jobs that's available in that industry is moving vehicles, be it going in the middle of the night and repossessing vehicles and hopefully not getting shot, even though you have every legal right to do it. And this is why I'm talking about business. Business is not always about what's morally correct. It's usually about what's legally correct. Even when I was in university, or sorry, not university, when I was in college, my business law class, I was literally the only person who aced the class. My professor, after we had concluded all of our studies and everything, came up to me and he said, he never gives anybody full marks. I'm literally in his, years of teaching the only person to have ever gotten it, and that's because I was able to dissect with our final project what the true understanding of business. My project was dealing with Disney and how it monopolizes the entertainment industry and its subsidiaries, and that's how it kind of bypasses a lot of the monopoly laws. Anyways, besides the point, details definitely matter.
Buying, the real price setter. You don't set the price when you sell, you set it when you buy. What?
That is also very true. You can have something and you think, like, for example, like this bracelet, right? I'm a seller and I think because it has sentimental value, I think it's worth $1,000. But is anybody going to actually pay for it? Well, then I have the option of either holding on to it indefinitely or lowering my price. Now, if you lower the price too much, you can also still lose customers, right? Because then people wonder, was it fake? Is there something wrong with it? Did you steal it? That's kind of the thing. So understanding who your customer base is, understanding a lot of that stuff really matters. I know a lot of teachers, especially secondary teachers, who teach business and teach economics and actually have no idea what the reality of it is outside of a textbook. And that's because they've never actually owned a business. They've never worked for anybody. They went straight from college, university, and straight into the education field. So yeah, just keep that in mind with my commentary and about this video as well.
Want to know what something's really worth? Watch what people pay, not what it costs. The second you want something, you lose. Power. The second you need something, you've already sold your soul. Companies don't sell products, they sell illusions. Ugly, buy beauty. Lonely, buy love. Poor, buy the illusion of status.
This is all thanks to the US and its marketing. So, the communists after World War II used their propaganda to push governmental ideas, and the US used their propaganda to push, well, capitalism. Bye bye.
You're not paying for the item, you're paying for what kid says about you. That's the game. Selling, choking the consumer. Selling used to be honest. Now it's a mind game. Scarcity, flash sales, fake urgency, fake reviews. Only two left. Spoiler, there are $2,000. Choice is a weapon now.
That's still true. And I think it's even truer now than ever before, especially with so many people buying stuff online. They'll tell you, oh, there's only two left. Buy it now. You get this warning in your shopping cart. It's going to get sold out. And then as soon as it gets sold out, like 2 or 3 days later, because of course the seller maybe hasn't updated their thing, there's 500 more available again. you know be weary, not to say let, if there's something you really want. I think, like I said before, if it's something that the price to value for you is worth it, then get it. But don't just do it mindlessly. Don't just, you know
37 types of peanut butter isn't freedom, it's paralysis. The poor don't even get choice. Just markup and leftovers. Selling is no longer about need. It's about confusion. Confuse them enough, they'll pay to feel certain. Trade and compromise. Trade is never fair. It's what do I have? We've seen what can I get away with compromise. Whoever cares less wins. Countries do it. Couples do it. Kids on a playground do it better than world leaders. You're
trying to figure out what I was leading to with this. Maybe it's like when you do snack trades, right? You've got something and the like a bag of chips, and the other person has a lollipop, and that's not an equal trade. The bag of chips is obviously, like, if you talk about price, it's worth more, but to the kid who wants the lollipop, they're willing to trade it even though they're losing. And the kid who's trading the lollipop, probably knows that he's getting a better deal, and he might even take that bag of chips and trade it with somebody else for something of a higher value, like a monster drink, because it costs more, and so on. So you see a lot of this dynamic. And I'll tell you a story about when I was, I believe it was seventh grade, maybe eighth grade. There was this kid. He used to sell the jumbo super pops on the school bus, because you're not allowed to sell or trade snacks at school. So he'd do it on the school bus, and he sold them for 50 cents a pop. And one day, I didn't have 50 cents, but I really wanted it. So I was like, listen, man, I got 25 cents and I'll owe you 25 cents and I can give it to you tomorrow. Just let me get one. Right. And he's like, well, just get the 50 cents and buy it tomorrow. And I was like, I don't want it tomorrow. I want it today. So he refused. So I got angry. And instead of confronting him or making a big deal about it, I just dropped the subject and I got stubborn. I took the money I had at home. I worked a few extra jobs. I saved up enough money. I bought a bag of the super jumbo pops. And then I got on the school bus. It was about a week later, and I started selling them for half the price. Turned out to be, they were only, I think, 10 or 15 cents a pop. So he was making a massive profit margin because he had no competition. So I kept doing this. I don't remember exactly how long, maybe 2 or 3 months, until I basically put him out of business. Anytime he dropped his price, I dropped my price. I got to the point where I think, for like towards the end, I sold them like 10 for $1, which is basically at cost, or maybe even at a loss, just to put him out of business. And then once he stopped selling them, I also stopped selling them. And that's kind of the thing where I think that's really what I was referring to when I said kids understand it, business sometimes better than adults, because they're like, why would you do that? That you're selling at a loss. Yeah, the point isn't to make sales that are a profit. The point is to put the competition out of business.
either making a smart trade to survive or a slow deal with the devil. Most of us do both, depending on the day. Money is a tool to be abused. Money isn't evil, but it exposes what already is. People don't need to love money to worship it. They just need to be desperate. Ration. Sales bodies, souls, passwords, and time.
I believe that's really true nowadays. A lot of us think, oh, no, I would never do that. I would never do that. No, you don't know because you haven't been put in that situation. I think this is as parents, it's one of the main reasons parents will give in to their child even though they don't want to give them something because they can see the desperation in their child's face and they know that if somebody finds out about that desperation that they might be put in a compromising situation and somebody might take advantage of that. And because it happens to adults, right? So with kids, it's a lot more dangerous as well.
And still shows up to work Monday like it's normal. Rich people don't talk about how they got there, because most of it's not pretty. Loopholes, lies, selling out just this once until that once becomes their whole damn career. Then they tell the poor to work harder.
I know why I said that. And that's because it's the same reason I quit wanting to push forward with working in business. And the reason I didn't end up opening another business for a while after that. And it's one of my biggest fears of going back into business. I know too many of the rules, the real rules of business. I know too many of the loopholes and the ways to get around. I know what the law is and I know how to use that to my advantage. And those are all things that if you want to work in business, you have to know. And if you're not willing to put in that effort, then don't bother. Go get a normal degree. Go, work a normal job, and that's it. Enjoy life, buy the things, and consume what you want. But I still recommend that you at least have a better understanding about business.
Cute. Bribery. Even kids understand it better than you.
Oh, I'm talking to Americans here, by the way, about the bribery thing, because a lot of first world honesty, first type of there are laws on the books. It's against the law to bribe and all this other stuff. Well, if you're American, you know about lobbyists, and lobbying is legal bribery. So don't think just because the name is different means it doesn't exist. And I'll get into that when I make the opening a business in Syria video because you have to bribe in some countries and in some situations. And if you don't, you will not be able to open a business or your business will get shut down or taken over. And it's just the truth of the situation. Sometimes you even have to bribe your competition to back off. Like, this is my area. Don't open anything here. Don't compete with me. Otherwise, we're both going to fail type of thing. And of course, bribery is basically asking the question, well, what's in it for me?
Bribery isn't some sketchy envelope. It's parenting, it's politics, it's everyday life. Kids get it. What do I get if I do it? That's a bribe. And they ask with confidence. Adults pretend we're above it, but we live off it. Promotions, perks, heaven. If you behave, we call it rewards. But if it walks like a bribe and quacks like guilt, it's a bribe.
That's an interesting statement. I think the guilt part is because a lot of times when we do it, we feel guilty that we shouldn't have been able to, or we shouldn't have done that. And when we receive it, we feel like, well, we're kind of abusing power, abusing the situation. So I think that's what I meant by it.
The real problem isn't bribery, it's pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah, that is a big issue. So many people try to act like they're above it, and it's still like that. I've had people flat out try to bribe me. And I will tell you this much, okay? I accept, but I do not exchange.
Final word on business. Business isn't just economics, it's emotion, it's fear, it's ego, it's need. Every sale is a story. Every brand is a belief. Every dollar is a vote. You don't have to be rich to understand business. Just pay attention to what you trade your life for. And if you're smart, stop playing the game like a pawn. Start playing it like you own the board. Even if your board is a folding table, own it. That's business.
Yeah, I still agree with a lot of this. Actually, I think nowadays, especially with what I've been through with international business, I'm a lot harsher, a lot crueler. I don't come off that way. Typically, people take me as meek, and they just assume I don't know any better because I stay silent about situations or I allow the abuse to happen. And that's because at the end of the day, if you are playing with your cards revealed, you will 100% lose the game, even if you don't have good cards or if you have bad card, like whatever your situation, whatever cards you are playing with, if you play with them revealed, you will lose because then your opponent can play according to your hand rather than having to play their own. There are situations though where you might reveal some of your cards just enough to make them feel confident. Let's say you've got, 5 cards and you've got a 2 in there, but you've actually got 4 aces. You might accidentally fumble the 2, so then they think, oh crap, he doesn't have anything and he's holding back and he's not like going all in, so it can't really be that good. So even if he had, 4 2s, and let's say the person has 4 queens, they're confident. Even if I have 4 2s, it doesn't matter to them. But the reality is I have 4 aces and a 2 and I'm going to win. So you have to think like that mindset when it ever comes to business. And to the women out there, you need to do the same. When it comes to marriage, is a business. If you don't know this or you don't know the history of marriage, that's what it was. 2 kingdoms uniting, 2 families uniting. That's what marriage used to be. It wasn't just about finding the person you love. It wasn't just about having kids. It's everything. So the reason I bring this up, especially now more for couples, is if you are a couple and you don't think of your relationship as a union, just like 2 business partners, your union will fail. Okay? It's Disney princess ideology thinking all we need is love. Thought that too, right? And it do need love. Love will help you persevere. But if you do not have a good foundation, if you do not have a good business, right, then you won't be able to overcome life's real difficulties because, well, you won't be able to get yourself out of a hole. So you should always diversify your investments, always think about contingency plans, and when it's time to have kids, you should have a plan for that as well. Set up an account early, start savings, take advantage of the tax situation, all of that. I didn't mention any of that there, and that's because, well, at the time I was neither married nor had children, and or child in my situation. But yeah, just try to plan it out. I know it can seem overwhelming, it can seem overbearing, but grab a clipboard, grab a notebook, start writing, and before you know it, a little bit will come out. And when there's something you don't know, search it and don't accept the first answer just because that's what the Google AI or whatever Chat GPT or what anything gave you advice for, especially since a lot of it now is starting to get tweaked and tailored to where it's giving you the information that it thinks you want rather than actual facts or what's the best option. And be wary, it's going to get worse. There are going to be poorer and poorer people come the next decade, and there are going to be richer and richer people, and the middle class is being just torn apart. I think I'm going to end it there. Thanks for listening, watching, like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below.